Now, welcome to another weekend ramble, where this time the topic is going to be.
It's going to be something that I referred to in a video past. I said the words the Gilroy effect. Well, I
Yeah,
was referencing the effect Tony Gilroy is having on Star Wars as a whole. And I think that was something you took interest in, if I recall.
I have done a few videos talking about what happens if Andor Season 2 is very successful and very popular and beloved. What kind of lesson do Disney and Lucasfilm take away from that, especially after
Mm-hmm.
other things have recently been failures, such as, unfortunately, Skeleton Crew?
But was Skeleton Crew truly a failure?
Well, I'm
Due
simply.
to numbers alone, you could say
Yeah,
yes. But I think overall in the community, it was much better received than many of their recent projects.
it was better received, certainly, but I don't think a lot of people watched it. It's like saying, well, I only showed it to 10 people out of the 100 who usually watch it, and 9 of them liked it. So
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean? And I'm not trying to talk crap about Skeleton Crew. I really enjoyed it. I think more people would enjoy it if they gave it a chance. But it obviously didn't, numbers wise, reach the kind of audiences they were hoping it would.
Mm-hmm. So overall, the encompassing nature of the Tony Gilroy effect, I think it's already started. Andor Season 1 absolutely knocked it out of the park for people who watched it. I think over time, more people have watched it. I think that's why Disney's advertising this so heavily with the critical reviewed show, the acclaim, look at this show, people loved this show.
Nominated for awards, and yeah.
Yes, because it's all true.
I think it is true. I think obviously Disney has the internal numbers. They know who is watching and how long
Mm-hmm.
and so on. So I think they have seen who knows what or how well it has done after the fact here, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's done well enough for them to really try to hang their hat on how good it has been and that it has been nominated for awards. And I think they are seeing some steady viewership numbers here.
Well, and leading up to season 2, with them talking about the awards and the accolades of this show, are more people watching it? People who loved it the first time around are going back to watch it again before the next season. So I'm curious the kind of internal numbers Disney is seeing on this.
We did see, because I think it's Samba tracks everything, and Andor, I think, is their top rated show right now, which shouldn't be a surprise going
Mm-hmm.
into season 2.
Because people are watching it. People who maybe didn't watch it ever before, and people who maybe are just rewatching it like we have been.
Yeah. But I mean, what does it mean if Andor does really well? What will that say to Disney and
Mm-hmm.
Lucasfilm, and what will their response be? Because
Right.
it is a different type of Star Wars. In a manner of speaking, I will argue till I go to the grave someday that it is Star Wars, I think, through and through. But it is certainly a different feel than a lot of other Star Wars is. It is
Mm-hmm.
a more gritty, grounded, adult, mature, whatever you want, put whatever label you want on it, it is different from a lot of other Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And if it turns out that season 2 is very successful and not like astronomically where it sets the world on fire, but that it gets better viewership and pretty significantly so than season 1, and the critical acclaim is still there and the fans are
Mm-hmm.
still behind it, like, what do you do?
What do you do? And this is the topic in general, the Tony Gilroy effect.
He's changed Star
He's
Wars,
changed,
I think, yeah.
yes, the entire landscape, the entire things of what can you do with Star Wars. He
And what you
took
should
Star
expect,
Wars
yeah.
and changed it more or less from a space opera, traditional type of space opera type feel, fantasy, sci-fi-ish type movie. He turned it into, let's go into this deep thinking spy rebellion thriller. He even said in a recent interview that he hoped the work he's doing on Star Wars can change what they do with it, such as even making a horror type show
Yeah.
or a sitcom.
Well, I don't think they would go sitcom because,
But they could.
well, yeah,
Matt,
but
the radar technician, you just follow some
well, sure, but then that's
quirky
not,
type thing within,
that's more
like the
satire.
lower decks for Star Trek.
Yeah, but I mean, the radar technician, that's more satire. That's
I
more, I know, you know,
But
I
you
mean,
know what I was generalizing.
yeah, but I think what it says is that maybe there are fans that just want Star Wars to grow up a little bit. That sure, it's fine when it is more for all ages and younger viewers, and Skeleton Crew can be great. And they're just looking for something that's a little more sophisticated, I guess.
I mean, isn't that why Game of Thrones became so popular? Is it was more adult, more gritty, more sophisticated in some
Yeah.
senses?
And I think that's what they look at. I think if you're Disney and Lucasfilm, you look at the massive success of Game of Thrones. It took the world by storm. That was
Mm-hmm.
crazy popular. And how do we tap into that a little bit?
Yeah, without going to
Too
the
far.
extremes that went to. Well, you realize the audience likes to be mentally challenged. We like to get that stimulus when we're watching something that makes you think about things, that you have a deeper conversation with your friends afterwards, discussing it. Not just, that was a cool episode, right? No, instead we're going into the, like, it's a different discussion than when we
Nuances,
watched
yeah.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, oh,
Mandalorian
yeah.
was like fun adventure of the week. When you're talking to your friends about it, it's not a huge, deep conversation as like when you're talking about Andor and you're debating philosophies of how to justify how bad you can be for the right of
Yeah.
for being good. Yeah.
How far is too far in the name of good?
Like, there were a lot of deep conversations. There's a lot of nuance within the show that makes you want to discuss it. I think that's what Disney wants. They've realized their audience needs this.
Yeah, I think part of it is certainly it is more to chew on, it is more to talk about and discuss. It has a deeper meaning. And I think good Star Wars usually does. Like, you can go back to OT prequel trilogy, there is a deeper meaning there. It doesn't necessarily bubble to the surface the same way maybe it does in Andor, where it's overt and obvious and it immediately gets you thinking. And I think another part of it that also goes along with the Game of Thrones effect is people like unpredictability. I think that is one of the biggest problems of a show like Ahsoka. Like, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's fine. I know a lot of people enjoy it out there, which is also fine. But it was predictable. I knew what was going to happen at every single turn. I was never surprised by anything.
It was more similar to watching episodes of Clone Wars.
It was very Clone. I think if that show is Clone Wars animation style, it's probably more popular and more accepted. But the fact that they turned it into live action, I think people tend to judge a live action harsher because of the cartoon effect, if you will. Anyway, not getting into that topic, I do think the unpredictability of Andor, where we're watching this and we're like, well, we know Andor is going to make it through the series and Mon Mothma, but there are so many other characters that we have grown to like and care about, and we're like, what's going to happen? Or the prison arc. I didn't see it ending like that.
Well, and even knowing that Mon Mothma and Cassian both survive, there's still the unpredictability factor of how emotionally are they getting through this.
Yeah.
When we know Mon has a family and we don't see them later on.
Exactly.
We know Cassian has these deep forged relationships. What happens? What is going to turn them into the people we know?
Yeah, what happens to Bix? What happens to these other people that he cares about? What happens to Ferrix? And I mean, maybe we don't get that answer necessarily, but we've come to care about so many things, and the future seems uncertain. And since the show isn't like, oh, it's going to be happy ending, we know that you're worried about them, and you're curious to see what actually happens, because there's this air of believability to it, because much like a Game of Thrones again, bad things happen all the time.
And that's what I think they were trying to start accomplishing in Skeleton Crew. I think Skeleton Crew had an unpredictability factor.
It did, yeah.
We kept thinking the most predictable route is that Jod's going to go for the kids. He's going to have a heart of gold, and he didn't. He theoretically went down with the ship. He said, no, this is what I wanted, and what I want matters more than what you want. There was an unpredictability factor within that, because we didn't understand, and there was the water cooler discussion. We didn't understand exactly what's with this planet these kids come from, where they're going next, how are they going to get home, how does Jod fit into this, what's his background. There were good discussions to be had.
Yeah, it was interesting. There were a lot of theories you could make, and yeah.
So I liked that there were discussions to be had in the show. There was an unpredictability factor. So it kind of was starting to check some of the boxes while moving into a genre of more of, this is a family-friendly type show. So I think if they can just keep bridging different genres with that, we may have some future Star Wars success on the horizon.
Yeah, you can't just keep doing the cookie cutter, good guys win in the end kind of story every single time, or take the same path to the finish line, essentially. You do have to subvert expectations from time to time, but not for the sake of it. That's the thing. That's the thing that The Last Jedi gets wrong. It subverts your expectations for the sake of doing it to get the shock out of you, instead of like, this makes sense in the story. This makes sense because I have established character A to be like this. They're actually using the equations of the characters instead of like the guy behind the scenes being like, oh, people are going to be so surprised when I cut Snoke in half and that Luke Skywalker is going to be a hermit. Like, no, you didn't earn any of that, especially the Luke thing. You didn't earn Hermit Luke. Thus, when we see him, we're like, well, that doesn't make sense. Last time I saw him, he was smiling and going to start the Jedi Order back up. But in this show, you start with the characters, you establish them, we understand them, and then when they do the things they do, and it hurts other characters or whatever it might be, it all makes sense.
Yeah. So I think going forward, I really do hope they learn from Tony Gilroy. I hope season 2 of Andor is a huge numbers success for Disney, because that proves to them that this is what we want.
Yeah, it's what can work in Star Wars. I know there are fans out there who don't like Andor, and that's fine, but I think you really got to look at the fact that it's a struggling franchise. It's an aging franchise. What do these people actually want? What do the majority of them actually want out of this franchise today? And that doesn't mean you ignore the kids and not trying to get new people in there, but I think you got to give the fans you have what they actually want. And I think a lot of them want something a little more sophisticated, a little less predictable, and just a little different from the norm. All right. Well, I think that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us what you think about the Tony Gilroy effect. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you want to see more of it? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.